Hi, welcome to Rick's Garage. So you want to bleed the brakes on your own car, but you want an inexpensive yet effective bleeder kit to do the job? Well, look no further, because I've got a recommendation for you. Okay guys and girls, so here it is, the Gunson Eezibleed kit. So let's get a couple of obvious things out of the way first. If you are in the motor trade, then obviously you're not going to buy something like this, at least I don't think you would. Although it would do the job, it's not something that you would use potentially day in, day out. You're going to want to invest your money in something a lot more purposeful. But if, like me, you are a DIY home mechanic, then this thing is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've actually owned this for 6 years now, and I paid 20 quid for it 6 years, and to be honest, I've used it a lot more than I ever initially thought I would, and it's been fantastic every single time. I can't recommend it enough. So I'm going to use this on the car today, but before I do, let's get over to the bench and have a quick look what's inside the box. Okay guys, so this is the contents that you will get inside the box. Obviously you've got the main bottle where you put your brake fluid. On the end of that you'll find the cap to the brake reservoir. Now I've never had to change this cap. You do get spare or different size caps depending on what vehicle you're using it on, but this is a standard size cap for most modern cars. I've used this on a lot of different cars and I've never had to change it yet. Now the only thing I've ever replaced on this is the washer, which goes inside the cap of the bottle. The other one, it just got damaged and it worn away a little bit, but I got a pack of a few different ones of these on eBay just for a couple of quid. So yeah, that's the only thing I've ever replaced. It's been a brilliant bit of kit. You do get a lot of tubing as well with it to bleed your brakes at the caliper end. This is obviously your air line, so to speak, which goes into your spur wheel. Now, a lot of people would think that using your spur wheel with a kit like this would be very inconvenient, but to be honest guys, when you think about it, you've already got your wheel off anyway to do the brakes. All you've got to do is put the wheel up towards the engine bay and away you go. Now, you do need to decrease the pressure inside your wheel before you use it to 20 psi. I suppose that is a little bit of a drawback because that means you've got to pump your tyre back up again to optimum pressure. But yeah, it's not really much of an issue for me. But yeah, it's been a fantastic bit of kit. So that's what you get inside the box. So as I always say in these videos, without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so to check the pressure in your wheel, all I literally do is use the foot pump, which has got a pressure gauge on it. So I'm just going to let some air out as required. And you want a maximum of 20 psi. Just coming up to that now. Little bit more. So yeah, that's just under 20 psi now. So nice and easy. So as you can see, this isn't the wheel off my car, this is my spur wheel, but it's a bit lighter. I know a lot of you guys are thinking, oh, what are you doing with that wheel on top of your engine? Well, don't stress guys, because my engine is getting detailed, everything is getting powder coated and renewed, so yeah, don't stress about that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is undo, obviously, your brake fluid reservoir first. Put that up there, and then secondly you want to get your brake fluid, because what you need to do is top off your reservoir to the max. And when I say the max guys, I don't mean the max level indicator on your bottle, I mean literally fill your reservoir full of fluid. And the next thing we're going to want to do is fill our bottle. I mean, how much fluid you put in here depends on what you're doing. You don't need to fill it all the way to the top if you only do one caliper or your 2 front calipers, but I always put plenty in. You can always pull back in what you don't use. Now, before you put your cap on, you need this bit of tube inside. Once I actually get it on. So yeah, make sure you have that little length of tube inside the cap first before you put it on, otherwise if you don't, nothing will happen. So we're going to screw on the cap. Now there is a line that is the minimum indicator. As you're bleeding your brakes, you don't want to let the brake fluid go lower than that mark on the bottle. So yeah, this is the stage we're up to now. Next thing you're going to want to do is screw on that cap to your brake fluid reservoir. Okay. Now another thing you get inside the kit, which I forgot to show, is this handy little bracket, so you can hang the bottle up somewhere or wherever. You don't necessarily need to. I normally just leave it there on the side, or you know, whatever you can get it in really. Now needless to say, you don't want to spill brake fluid anywhere. It's highly corrosive, it ain't good for your paintwork, so yeah, just be careful what you're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to hook up this air line now to the spur wheel, and instantly when you do that, you should see the brake fluid rush around the tube into the reservoir, which you may not see on film, but that's what will happen. Okay, so I seen that brake fluid go around the tube, and now this is all full of brake fluid. So that is literally it for this end. So just a quick recap. Top off your brake fluid reservoir right to the top. Fill up your bottle, put the cap on the reservoir from the bottle, hook up your air line, and that is literally it at this end. And all you've got to do then is go down to the caliper end, crack off your bleed nipple, bleed your brakes, and that's what we'll show you next. So the bleed nipples on these Brembo calipers, 10mm. I've also got my tube in to put on the bleed nipple, and then you're going to need a container to bleed the excess fluid into. Personally, I've always used this old jar. I've used it for years and years and years. Yeah, it's almost become my lucky brake bleeding jar. Ring spanner on first, followed by the tube in. Make sure the tube is inside the jar. Crack it off, and here it comes. Still got a little bit of air coming out of that yet. Okay, so that is it for that one. Just close that one off, spanner off, pipe off, ring spanner on first, tube in second. So yeah, whenever I can, I always make sure the ring end of the spanner is on the nipple rather than the open end spanner, just to get a better grip of it. So on goes the tube in the end of this. Okay, so I'm just cracking open this bleed nipple now. So yeah, there it comes. Obviously I want to leave it open enough or long enough. Now that muck you can see there is on the inside of the tube, it's not coming out of the caliper. Okay, so I think that is pretty much it. So I'm going to tighten that back off now. Not too tight. Spanner off. And that one's done. Now what I always do, guys, is a little bit of brake cleaner. Make sure you get that little tiny bit of brake fluid off, because brake fluid is not good for paint. And if you're like me, you've just rebuilt your calipers, that isn't what you want. So yeah, dust covers back on, and that is the first caliper done. Okay, so just on the other side now, dust covers off. Yeah, a lot of crap coming out of that one. One big air bubble, two big air bubbles. Leave it a little bit longer. Okay, Dust covers on. Ring spanner on first. Again, tubing on second. Tube in the end. Crack it off. Here comes the fluid with all the air bubbles in it. Plenty of air in this one. Now what I sometimes do is close it off, leave it a couple of seconds, crack it off again. And sometimes, like you can just see there, or maybe you can see, you get a bit more air out of it that way. Crack it off. Just persuades any more trapped air to come out the system, which I'm getting quite a bit. Again, tighten, let it off. Yeah, lots of air in that one. Okay, so I think that one's just about done. So tighten that one back up. Brake line off. Brake line off. Plastic tubing off. Get that brake fluid straight off. You always get a couple of drips when you pull the pipe off. Dust cover on. So that is pretty much it. Okay guys, so when you're done, obviously you need to check for a nice firm brake pedal to make sure it's all in order. So when you're finished, the last thing to do is disconnect the air line, like so. Unscrew the cap from your reservoir. Move this away. Okay, so the last thing you need to do now is you need to get the correct level again on your reservoir. Obviously the reservoir now is completely full to the brim, which is too much. So I take a little bit out so it's just on the mark where it needs to be. Okay, so what I normally use is, you know, if you've got kids, then you'll know what Calpol is. The medicine for kids, Calpol. In Calpol you get one of these little syringes to give the Calpol to your infants. Now we've had loads of these left over in the drawer over the years and they come in handy for things like this. I literally, what I do is use these to withdraw a bit of brake fluid just to get it down to the max mark where it needs to be. So yeah, nice little thing, a nice little tip. Okay, so as you can see, it's just full to the brim. I'm going to stick that in there. Draw a bit out. And this can go back into your bottle to be used at a later date. Okay guys, so I've now took that down to the max mark on the reservoir where it needs to be. Last job, finishing job, stick on the brake reservoir cap. And then obviously it's a good idea to spray around with brake cleaner, clean everywhere up, and that is the job done. Okay guys, so that is job done. The brakes are bled on the front of the Alfa Romeo, and that is the Gunson Eezibleed kit. So let's just be realistic just for a moment. I am not for 1 minute saying that this is the best product you can buy on the market, far from. This is just a cheap option for you, but one that actually works very, very well, and that is my point. This one cost me £20, but you can spend well in excess of that. You can spend 50, 100, 200 pounds on a brake bleeder. You can buy the ones that create their own vacuum, you pump up, they're all very good. I have used them once before, but this is the one that I use in my garage. It's a great bit of kit. It's money saved, money that can be spent in other areas, and that's what it's all about. So there you go guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, thank you very, very much for watching. I shall see you next time.